we're talking about drilling holes, and if you put a bit in a tailstock and you push it into the wood, I'm talking almost any bit. It doesn't, the degree of where it's going to travel, it varies with the bit and how it's manufactured. But brad point, pointed bits, regular 35-degree pointed bits, will walk terribly when you go in. It'll pick up a grain and just walk on out. Now, especially if it's thin, a small bit, because it'll move and you won't know it's moving. It'll come through the side of whatever you're turning. I use when I do those pitless ink pens that I like to turn. That's the mandrel. That's my 3/16 drill bit. That's the mandrel that I turned and on. See, it's being held in my bit. This is, I have a one way. This is a number 2. It fits in a headstock at a one way. The tailstock is a number 3. But this is what I use. But this does not go into the piece. I'm sorry. This doesn't go in like a quill, a drill press or whatever. It goes, I will take the piece of wood. I thought I had a piece here. And I will hand drive it onto the piece because I can control the pressure hand driving better than I control the pressure quill driving. And after you do a couple, you'll find out that you can line up your stock with a point on the tailstock. Just line it up, get about a 1/4 inch, and then when you start driving it, this pressure will drive it right on. Now this has got a short drill points on it, but if this heats up, it'll walk through the side of that piece and nothing flat. So when you're drilling, think about changing how much pressure you put on with the quill. Boy, it's hate to have you get a good piece of stock out and find out you went through the side of it. So I haven't had a good pin come out yet that had a hole in the side of it.
Hey Eddie.
Sir, go ahead.
Yes, during the drilling, to relieve the chips out of there more frequently will keep the point from overheating. So if your drill is heating up, you're not cleaning out the chip enough to allow that air to get in it.
Oh yeah, I go maybe I get a 1/2 inch, pull it out, and get a 1/2 inch, pull it out.
Right. Do it more often. That way it won't get heated up.
This is one of my This is one of my desktop pitless pens, and that's drilled in 6 1/4 inches. I'm sorry, 5 3/4 inches deep, and because when I turn them, I'm putting them right back on that drill bit that never sees anything else. Never will it drill anything but the wood I use for pens. No wood, no metal ever. And after I drill it, when I get to having about a 1/4 inch left to go, I can just shove it and let it go. And it's spinning on the drill bit. It's going to be doing this when it's spinning. So you want to bring the tailstock up to make contact with the end of your blank. Don't try to center it. Just let it make contact. It might be a little bit out, but that'll show you that it's running true. You can force it over and get it to the center, and you'll see your drill bit in a few moments, because that's using the bit as a mandrel. And we've seen other pieces shown in gallery in this meetings. We've seen other pieces that have been done on other mandrels besides ink pen mandrels and bottle stopper mandrels and all those things that they sell for that. Make your own mandrel if you choose. If you need one that's for a 1/4 inch, you can get a 1/4 inch piece of steel at the hardware store. You can chuck it up and hold it. All it is, run it, make sure it's running true before you get started. And don't try to, like I said, don't try to true it up. It will, you can, but where you're at, if it's not true to the piece you're turning, it's gonna get wobbly on you. And somebody said the coming through the side is how much did you pay for the blank? Jim, I'm using 2x4.
It works perfect.